they did it. Hungary voted in Sweden. And I think this is a good moment to think about NATO, the strength of NATO, right? This is just one of many events that have occurred that really show that NATO has gotten stronger throughout this war. And Putin started this off and complained that, well, NATO was going to expand into Ukraine, and NATO has gone back on its agreements to stay away from Russia and respect its sphere of influence, and all that stuff. And so Putin started this war to push back on NATO, and in that sense, it's an abject failure, and in several ways. I mean, yes, the U.S. is a soft spot in NATO, especially if Trump gets elected. That is a very concerning thing. Not necessarily much to do with Putin, right? Trump was already causing trouble in NATO. When we look at NATO itself, this war has been just a unifying influence. And I just look at what Putin did and said, man, don't you understand? Yes, you're making people afraid. Yes, you are flexing your muscle and showing how big and bad you are. And all that is doing is making them buy more F-35s, right? Or more tanks and more, because Europe looks at this war and sees Russia attacking people that look like them, that live in cities that look like their cities. And they really do have this idea, hey, the Ukrainians are on the front line. Them, then us, right? And all the Russian misbehavior, right? The war crimes that are just legion, and the looting and the lawlessness and the fantastical lies coming out of the Kremlin, not to mention all of this, fan fiction that the Russian media does about nuclear war attacking Britain and doing all these things, right? All of this stuff that I guess Russia is using to cheerlead itself is not doing anything different. And the key thing is, when you threaten democracies, they prepare. This is the thing. And so what we've seen is defense budgets increasing. We've seen Poland buying every damn tank they can lay their hands on. Strong commitment. And just recently, NATO and Finland, Sweden and Finland joining NATO. So here's the thing. Putin has just, in many ways, utterly failed in terms of securing Russia against NATO. And the one thing he's got going for him is his 19th century world, right? The very vision that said to him, NATO's a threat because they have a capability to conquer our territory, to come in, right? That's a very 19th century view. The 21st century view is, well, yeah, NATO's there and we got a lot of power, but, there's not much to be gained by going to war, so why would we do it? Why would we go in? And Putin's, a lot of Putin's thinking is very 19th century, and proof that he's wrong is the fact that NATO hasn't gone to war, that we haven't taken over Kaliningrad, that we aren't popping champagne corks in Leningrad at this point, right? Because that's what NATO would have done if it had a 19th century mindset. It doesn't. Nevertheless, it is a set of democracies. They are building up. They are strengthening. They are committed to Ukraine, committed to seeing them through the war. Whether Ukraine can continue the war without U.S. support, big question. But at this point, we got to say, does anyone question Europe's commitment to keep supporting Ukraine? Because when we started this war, that would not have been a certainty. And there are soft spots in Hungary and Italy sometimes, and there are various people, but in general, the body is in fact very strong. And I think the point of that is they strong-armed Hungary. Hungary didn't want to bring Sweden in. Absolutely not. But it's clear they could not resist the consensus. So as we look at the state of NATO, I think U.S. they really want the U.S. to stay involved, right? But if at any time in history NATO could think of standing on its own, it would seem to me that this is it.